Unsurprisingly, there's more Switch 2 news for us to cover, including Reggie trolling Nintendo. What is going on? We'll get to that in a moment here, but first off, let's start off with the perhaps most important, also maybe the most boring story, being the fact that Nintendo has confirmed how physical Switch 2 edition games work. Because a lot of people were under the assumption, probably because some Nintendo representatives had made this very confusing, that there would be a downloadable component to these games, meaning they weren't entirely on the game card. Thankfully, Vooks got a hold of Nintendo, the outlet Vooks, and confirmed that that is not the case. Nintendo specifically stating that physical versions of Nintendo Switch 2 edition games will include the original Nintendo Switch game and its upgrade pack all on the same game card. Alternatively, some publishers may release Nintendo Switch 2 edition games as download codes in physical packaging with no game cards. So they're leaving the door open for, for game codes in the future. But for right now, from Nintendo, Switch 2 edition games will have everything on that single cartridge. So that is good news. Now let's move on to maybe some lesser good news, or I don't know, neutral news I suppose, because this concerns pricing for Nintendo. Ooh, we're getting ahead of ourselves here. Where do I have that news story here? Here we go. This is the news story I want to talk about, because according to Bloomberg, some analysts have run the numbers and they believe that Switch 2 is costing Nintendo in manufacturing costs $400, meaning once you add the tariffs onto it, Nintendo will actually be taking a slight loss on this hardware, assuming they do not change the price, which at this point they may not, given the recent tariff news and how there's been a delay on many of them, or at least the extreme version of those tariffs, with most coming in at around 10%. So they're saying with that 10% tariff, I believe that they will likely still be taking a loss based on the $400 manufacturing cost. So this is going to show us that Nintendo, even at the original price, wasn't vastly overselling this at MSRP, in that they weren't making much profit once you add in the actual costs of producing the thing. I don't know if that includes marketing and everything else, but yeah, in any case, the Switch 2's price actually seems pretty reasonable now as a piece of hardware, especially given the cost of tariffs at this point, assuming Nintendo does not raise them. So we'll have to see what happens. Nintendo, of course, has still not announced the reopening of the pre-order date for the United States, so we'll have to see if that happens soon, again, given recent tariff news. But yeah, I found that this was interesting, that the Switch 2 actually may not be that cheap for them to produce, and if they end up releasing it at the same MSRP that already announced, being $450, that this may end up being one of the only times Nintendo has possibly taken a hit on hardware in terms of, or taking a loss rather. The only other time, I believe, was with the GameCube. When they reduced that to $99, they then were also apparently taking a hit on the hardware cost. But, they can make up for that in software. So I'm assuming, so it'll be interesting to see what happens here with Switch 2. Beyond this, let's move on to, speaking of pricing, let's get to that Reggie story. Oh no, I'm clicking all kinds of things wrong today. Let's get to that Reggie story of him trolling Nintendo. So here's what happened. Reggie has tweeted a series of clips from an IGN interview he had with them a couple years ago, and they all seem to pertain to one thing: being pack-in titles. The first clip is the story of Wii Sports being a pack-in, which apparently upset Miyamoto. Miyamoto did not want to pack it in. Reggie's like, no, we're doing it anyway in the US at least. Furthermore, he adds to that a story about he had the same exact issue making Wii Play or bundling the Wii Remote with Wii Play, which Miyamoto also did not like, but they ended up doing it here, I think even worldwide in that case. I could be mistaken there. And then, of course, he then tweeted the final part of this being the results of those pack-in games, being they were a huge success. He specifically cited how Wii Play was, I believe, the 5th selling best game on Wii, thanks to it being a pack-in. And on top of that, the Wii packing in Wii Sports of the Wii in North America and other territories that weren't Japan, the only region that didn't have it in, the Wii and Wii Sports were a bigger success in those other countries outside of Japan, showing that, yeah, Reggie was right about them being pack-ins. And this is obviously in response to Welcome Tour not being a pack-in on Switch 2, which I still cannot believe they're charging for that game. I was watching the Direct, and I'm like, why isn't that a pack-in? You can see my reaction to it. I'm sure I'm sure it's there. I could grab it right now, but I'm lazy.
Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour will launch as a paid digital game on the same day as Nintendo Switch 2.
They're charging for that?
Check it out if you're interested.
That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. I like that.
I thought it would be free.
That's not to say that Welcome Tour is necessarily the pack-in game that they needed, but they should have done something, beyond what they're doing with the limited edition Mario Kart bundle. I think it's limited edition, or limited quantities of the Mario Kart bundle with Switch 2, which actually does seem to be a good deal, but the fact that people may not be able to get it and are stuck with the $450 Switch 2, on top of buying an $80 game, and they have no pack-in available, I don't understand it. I think Reggie is right on the money here, so to speak. Finally, I want to end on one final glimmer of hope, although I don't think it's quite as hopeful as this story makes it seem. But IGN is reporting that Kinda Funny had talked to a Nintendo representative, and they were asking them about Wind Waker HD. And Nintendo's response to their question if Wind Waker HD could ever come to the platform was essentially, all options are on the table. Now, here's my take on this. I mean, of course they're on the table. Like, they're not going to write off any possibility in the future, so this is really a meaningless statement. Furthermore, if Wind Waker HD were coming anytime in the near future, at least outside of a possible like limited edition type thing, I don't think there's a chance Wind Waker HD would be, or sorry, Wind Waker on GameCube would be on the service already. Because we've seen multiple examples of similar types of events or games that haven't had that same experience. Take Mario and Donkey Kong, for example, where the remake's been out for what, a year now, if not over a year, I believe, and the original game still is on GB and NSO. Same thing with Mario RPG. That game never came out to NSO, even though there's the remake available now as well for, well, you know what, a year and a half now, I think? Maybe longer at this point? I've lost track of all time, everyone. But yeah, and then there are more examples beyond that, I believe. Or like how the fact that the Thousand Year Door wasn't announced as a NSO game yet, even though, you know, because its remake just came out a little while ago. And that, again, I think really goes to show, had Nintendo had any intentions of selling Wind Waker HD in the near future, they would have done it now, because why would people buy that, even though it is a much better version in my opinion, when there was essentially a free version available to them thanks to NSO expansion pack. So yeah, I don't think there's really much hope here, but you know, let's just, you know, on the table. So there you go, everyone. That is the news that we have for you today. Some fun stuff in there, including Reggie trolling Nintendo. But I really do think that Nintendo needs a Reggie, like Nintendo needed a Reggie or a Wada-like figure at this point. And unfortunately, of course, both of them are no longer with Nintendo for sadly different reasons. But yeah, I feel like Nintendo kind of like lost the messaging on Switch 2, or lost control of it at the least, and they have had no face to help contextualize or explain things, or even just, you know, someone to like make Nintendo seem less corporate and more human. And I think that will greatly help them here. And if not only to have made better decisions leading into this as well. So whether it was better decisions or putting a face to those bad decisions and helping to explain some context for things, all of that will have helped Nintendo in their current situation. Anyways, everyone, that's everything we have for you right now. I have another update coming soon for a topic I'm very excited about, so stay tuned for that. That should be a fun one, I think. And of course, we have plenty more features coming very soon too. With that, everyone, thanks for watching. We'll catch you later. Bye.